President Trump has publicly stated that he wants to take control of the Gaza Strip, a big move by President Trump's administration that he announced yesterday during a joint press conference with Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. And he even went further to say that the 2 million Palestinians should be removed from the Gaza Strip so that the United States can rebuild the Strip, bring jobs and economic prosperity to the Strip. He claims that the bombs and the ammunition that are unused will be cleaned up by the United States, but they're not going to foot the bill for it. And for the 2 million people in the Strip, they should be moved to either Jordan or Egypt. So obviously we have a lot to dive into here. But before we do, drop down below and hit that subscription button. Stay up to date with any future videos that we are able to get out for you. So President Trump held this press conference yesterday with Israel's Prime Minister, and he said that he would like to see the U.S. take ownership of the Strip, rebuild it, and that the Palestinians really don't want to return to an area that has been massively destroyed, and that he would help find a piece of land for them to be able to relocate to. Now, Trump has really tried to frame this as a humanitarian matter, where this is not about nation building, there is a humanitarian crisis, which President Trump is not wrong. There is a major humanitarian crisis in the Gaza Strip. You have a place that is in absolute shambles right now. It has been completely destroyed. After the Hamas terrorist attacks on October 7th of 2023, the Gaza Strip has been pummeled. And it would be nothing but ashes and dust right now if the Biden administration wouldn't have held Israel back. They really held a pretty tight leash on Israel and didn't let them stray too far. Now, this is something that needs to be done. The area must be rebuilt. And the United States, if they're going to do that, absolutely needs to take a ownership stake in this plot of land so they can bring prosperity back to the Strip. Because with all of the destruction in Gaza, it is not realistic for these people to stay there. There's no utilities. They don't have running water. They don't have electricity. All the utilities and the infrastructure has been destroyed. Buildings, they could collapse at any moment. Most buildings have been absolutely destroyed at this point. But the buildings that are still standing, well, how structurally secure and sound are they? How much weight would it take in one of these buildings for it to completely collapse and there be a huge mass casualty due to this failing infrastructure in the aftermath of the Israel-Hamas conflict? And like we talked about, the Strip is in complete rubble right now. And obviously, a two-state solution is not working. That has been the State Department idea behind this, is that we need a two-state solution. We need a two-state solution. We need to figure out the Palestinian issue. If we can solve the Palestinian issue, that will solve all the other issues. And we've seen that over the past 4, 5, 6 decades that reality just isn't true, and we need something else. We need someone who's going to think out of the box like President Trump is right here. But I can see how there may be a lot of people in the United States. A lot of people in the United States that may be a little hesitant to meddle in the Middle East. Now, the U.S. has not been very successful over the past 2 decades, 3 decades with operations that have occurred in the Middle East. After 9/11, we had the war on terror, and it's a forever war. We went into Afghanistan. We went into Iraq. We completely decimated Iraq. We set them back economically decades. And you can see why some people may be a little hesitant to the idea that we go into Gaza. But this is how Trump is. When, you look at Trump's negotiations with Canada, obviously Trump wants better border security and more resources from the Canadian government. So what does he do? He says that the U.S. is going to take over Canada, that they're going to become the 51st state. And after they kind of worked through it, they end up striking a deal in the 11th hour that Canada deployed 10,000 troops onto the northern border. And Trump was able to, he was able to avert the trade war for now. But this is just how Trump operates. This is how he negotiates. And we need to let this play out and see where Trump really is on the idea of taking ownership in the Gaza Strip. Trump throws a lot of stuff out there. Some wild stuff at times. We need to see really where is he at. Is this something that you're just throwing out there? Which Israel would absolutely love if the United States took a ownership piece in Gaza. It's like that's one of the major conflicts that Israel has, is these terrorists, Hamas, and Palestinians that are in Gaza. They're the ones who cannot stay peaceful in this whole process here. But we really need to say where this is going to end up in a few months. Are we going to find ourselves in a similar situation to where, the UN was back in the 40s when they relocated a group of people, the Israeli people, based on how they felt it should be drawn. And it was, the map changed over the years, and there were wars and there were conflicts from the very get-go. And there wasn't really much regard for the locals. But ultimately, what other choice do we have at this point? The conflict between Hamas and Israel will continue if left where they currently are. Now, you wonder whose fault is that? Is it Israel's fault? Or is it Hamas's fault? Well, let's take a look at this. Hamas, a terrorist organization who rape and brutally murder women and children, who killed over 1,200 Israelis and some Americans on October 7th and took hundreds hostage and used brutal tactics to intimidate and ultimately kill many of these hostages. I just don't see any other choice. And I shouldn't say I don't see any other choice, but right now I do not see it as a choice that it's a two-state solution. Most of the traditional thinking in the United States has been that if we can solve the Palestinian problem, that will fix all of the issues. Well, how do you solve the problem that the Palestinian people elected a terrorist organization? Why are we trying to tiptoe around these people and appease these people who elected a terrorist organization and at this point support a terrorist organization known as Hamas? It's just kind of ridiculous. You guys started a war and you lost it. You will do what the hell we tell you to do. That's just how it is. Now, Hamas did respond to Trump's idea of relocating the people out of the Gaza Strip, saying, quote, "Our people in Gaza will not allow for these plans to come to pass." But here's the thing. Hamas, you are a terrorist organization elected by the people in Gaza. The people in Gaza allowed and encouraged these terrorist activities to occur. They aided and abetted these terrorist activities during the last year and a half. And they will have a choice. They can either make a deal with Trump, or Trump will allow Israel to completely destroy Hamas and the Hamas sympathizers in Gaza. I think they should be grateful that President Trump would love to find them another plot of land that they can move to. You lost the war and you're terrorist. Be grateful you get anything out of this. Be grateful that the United States and Israel has not completely demolished every single Hamas sympathizer and Hamas member that is in the Gaza Strip. They will not be held back. Israel will not be held back like they were in the first Biden administration. You lost this war, you don't get to call the shots. And I don't know how many times I'm going to have to say that. When you lose a war, you don't get to call the shots. It is as simple as that. And here's the thing. Trump's goal in the Middle East, it is not to start a conflict there. Trump wants to bring peace to the Middle East. Look what he did during his first administration with the Abraham Accords. And if Trump would have been reelected in 2020, you most likely would have saw some sort of peace deal or Saudi Arabia brought into the Abraham Accords. And really, the Abraham Accords should have won Trump a Nobel Peace Prize. But because it's so political, he didn't. It's just kind of ridiculous that he didn't win a Nobel Peace Prize. But that's besides the point at this point. President Trump wants to bring peace to the Middle East. No one has said that we want boots on the ground. We want American citizens on the ground. We want American troops on the ground there. That's kind of out of the question as of right now. But Trump's goal will always be in the Middle East to bring peace to the Middle East and expand on the Abraham Accords. And these threats to take over the Gaza Strip and send the people to Jordan or Egypt is just the beginning of his negotiation process. Trump asks for the world. He starts way up here and then works his way down. We're going to see if this is something that Trump holds strong on, or is this something that's kind of more of a, something that's malleable. Is this something that is malleable? Because I don't think Trump is going to be dead set on this. I think it could be an idea that we could pursue, but there's still a lot of logistics about it that you'd have to figure out. And now, although we can want to help the people in the Gaza Strip, because I'm sure there are people in Gaza who do not support Hamas, who do not approve of the Hamas war that they started. And those people, we should do what we can to help them. But we must always put America first. And for the terrorist and the people who aid and abet terrorists, you should be put on notice. You will be treated as such if you continue to act like terrorists and aid and abet terrorists. You will be treated like a terrorist. And for the terrorists themselves, if you don't change your ways very, very, very quickly at this point, you will easily become a casualty in this whole process here. So we've got a lot of moving pieces. This is a humanitarian, number one, it's a humanitarian crisis in Gaza. Sending these people back into Gaza, where it is completely demolished, is a recipe for disaster, along with a two-state solution. It's just not going to work. As long as the Palestinian people and Hamas are terrorists, it's just not going to work. And I can understand why there's a lot of resistance from Jordan or Egypt to take on these people, because they know wherever these people go, it is going to be a hub for terrorism. And if the United States is going to help in this process here, they must demand ownership in the Strip. No, we're not going to go in and nation build for you for free. We are going to demand a piece of ownership in this Strip if we're going to help it at all. And it is very safe to say that the American people will be very skittish on this idea simply because of the past 3 decades that we've spent in the Middle East. And just look how it turned out for us. Where were all those weapons of mass destruction, George Bush? Where were they? Where were the weapons of mass destruction? But in number 2 of the moving pieces that we have here is that terrorists and terrorist sympathizers in Gaza must be completely eradicated. They must be arrested and tried for their crimes against the Israeli people. And if Hamas remains in power, the United States should not hold Israel back when it comes to defending the state of Israel. If Hamas is going to commit terrorist activities, you need to be treated like a terrorist. When the United States was attacked on 9/11, they had no issue spending the next decade demolishing the Middle East, going after people that they felt were responsible for 9/11. Israel should have the same right. They should not be held back on going toe-to-toe with these losers, these terrorists who kill, rape, and murder innocent civilians. And the people of Gaza have a lot of options here. It is up to them what their next moves will be. But ultimately, you lost this war. You are the losers in the war. You do not get to dictate the terms of the settlement. And if you reject this idea, Israel's not going to be held back. So we're going to keep you updated as all this rolls out. I'd love to hear more information. I know Trump's press secretary, Karen Leavitt, came out and said that President Trump does not want boots on the ground in the Gaza Strip. So we just need to see how this plays out more. But let me know your thoughts in the comments. What are your thoughts on Trump taking over the Gaza Strip or having a ownership piece? Or what are your thoughts on relocating 2 million people out of the Gaza Strip where it is just not safe to be? And what are your thoughts around the whole situation? So don't forget to like and subscribe and share this to anybody you'd like to. So until next time.